Okay, hi everybody. So happy to see you all. Good morning and welcome. I'm really happy to be here as usual. And I think it's really such a great way to start off your Monday morning learning about Eretz Israel, because I think the more we learn about Israel, the more we love Israel, the more we love God. And it's just this really nice triangle, loving Torah at the same time. Okay. This week, there's not always a connection between one week and the next. This week has absolutely zero connection to what we spoke about last time. In order to get us in the mode of Tisha B'Av, it's Shavua Shechabo, we are going to be talking about a place called Gamla, which has to do with Tisha B'Av, and we'll see why. So if you don't get a chance on Tisha B'Av to tune into any classes, I know the SCA has a whole day lined up, then this will at least be a prep, and the more we prepare for something, the better we are to deal with it. So that's one of the goals of this class, to help us get into the mode of Tisha B'Av. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Okay, so we are going to tour Gamla. What is Gamla? Where is Gamla? Where is it in Israel? For some people, this is the first time they're hearing about Gamla. It's not as well known as Yerushalayim or Tel Aviv, but it really should be. And hopefully after you hear the story of Gamla, you'll be convinced that it should really be up there as well. So this is a picture of Gamla. We're going to get to it in a minute. Let's just start with location. So looking at the map of Israel, if you see all the way on top, there's an area called the Golan. I have it circled in yellow, and that's where Gamla is. Gamla is in the Golan Heights, which at one point was a part of Syria, and now it's officially a part of Israel. Israel's never giving it back to Syria, and the Golan is located all the way up there. How far is it in proximity to Yerushalayim? So since we're all very familiar with Yerushalayim, I always like using that as my starting point. We have Yerushalayim at the bottom of the map over here. Drive 2 hours and 34 minutes. We'll take the shorter route all the way up to Gamla, and you're there. If you are visiting Gamla, I recommend that you make it an overnight trip, stay up north somewhere, because it is quite a long drive to do in one day there and back. You're going to be spending 5 hours in the car. So that is where Gamla is on a map, just to get us a little bit oriented. There's a few questions I want to focus on today, and I'm going to let you know so you know what our focus is. The first is the Battle of Gamla, a very important battle connecting to the Beit HaMikdash took place there. And what I want to know is, why was everyone fighting so hard? Both sides, the Romans, the Jews, what's the big fight about? That's focus question number one. Number two, connecting to Gamla, is Gamla's special birds. Now, I'm not telling you what it is now. If you recognize it from the picture, then amazing. What makes this bird so unique? So that we're going to talk about at the end, in addition. And Israel's Niagara Falls. Where is Israel's highest waterfall? Now, the main focus of this Zoom today is going to be the battle, and I'm just going to touch on the birds and the waterfall at the end, but I wanted to put it here as an overview so you know what to expect. Okay. The Great Rebellion. The little bit of history that's important to understand: from 66 to 74 CE, the Jews were fighting against the Romans, which means their fight started before the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. During the destruction, they were still fighting on Tisha B'Av, and we see in the picture the Romans are taking the kingdom of the Beit HaMikdash. And even after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, it wasn't like destroyed, that's it, everyone stopped. There was still fighting going on, and the Great Rebellion ended in either 73 CE, 74 CE, with the fall of Masada. If you're familiar with the Masada story, that was the last stronghold of the Jewish people. Okay, so that's background. In the beginning, the Romans think, oh, these are just small riots, the Jews rebelling here and there. They didn't take it seriously. Or not. But then when they continued and continued and continued, and they saw how strong and persistent the Jews were, they said, we need to deal with this more seriously. And then thousands of Roman soldiers join. Groups of Roman soldiers are called legion. We have the 10th Legion, the 5th Legion, the 15th Legion. They're all joining together, and they are led by their best Roman general, none other than Vespasian, in Hebrew Aspasianus. His son Titus destroyed the Beit HaMikdash. So that's what's going on now in history. And now I want to take us to Gamla. So if you look at Gamla, one of the most noticeable things is how high it is. It's really, really steep. And it's steep on 3 sides, and one side is less so, where there you would build protection. If you guys see the picture over here, and we're going to zoom in a little, you see a little bit of building because it's not so steep there. And it's a pretty inconvenient place to build. If you think of where, if you're, let's say you're looking to buy a home or you own a home, you want to live somewhere that's convenient. Is it next to a shul? Is it next to a school? Is it next to the supermarket? I know, so I live in Jerusalem, and I'm actually looking to move apartments, and I want to move to a super convenient spot that's next to everything that I want. I'm not going to just move in the middle of nowhere, although the middle of nowhere really is it's gorgeous a lot of times, but I'm going to do it based on convenience. So why is someone choosing to live on a steep mountain? Well, the considerations of the people had nothing to do with convenience, because it was not convenient living there, and it had to do with protection, because they knew that their realities, their enemies, and they want to make sure they're in a place that they can't easily be attacked. So they picked Gamla. Now, if you look, especially from this angle, Gamla, and you hear the name Gamla, it might remind you of an animal and that you might know the Hebrew word for, and you actually look at it. The name Gamla comes from the word Gamal, because look how great it looks, exactly like the hump of a camel. And actually, the way they discovered Gamla, so after Gamla, well, when we get to the end, this Gamla was destroyed eventually. We'll get there. And then for thousands of years, there was really no building on it. I mean, in a small scale, but not in this main area. And then the way they found out is in 1968, there was this man, Yitzchak Yigal, who was very familiar with the writings of Yosef ben Matityahu. Yosef ben Matityahu was the general of the Jewish people of the areas up north of the time. And he writes tons of books of history about what happened. And he describes that Gamla, it looks like the hump of a camel. So now when this man is walking around and he knew his writings, and he knew, he sees this, and you could see, not in this picture, but you could actually see the kinneret in the background. So he looks at this, he goes, this really, really looks a lot like what Yosef ben Matityahu was describing, Josephus. And then he and another man, Shmalia Gutman, they start doing digging, and they find tons of things, which I'll share with you later on, that say, hey, this really is Gamla, because we find things that prove there's a battle site here and all other kinds of things. So the unique shape and the hump of a camel really helped it. Now that we could zoom in a little bit more, you see that here there's all different types of buildings. We're going to talk about what some of them are. Really amazing, and I hope you go and visit Gamla. You're going to hope you go and visit too after we finish. Okay. The Romans are coming. What do we do? So we have one option is to fight back. Another option is to surrender, or other is there a third option. Now, because we opened up, we said the Great Rebellion, most Jews chose that they want to fight back. And that's, in fact, the story of what the people of Gamla did. Now, I really, there's no real reason why Masada is much more visited and more popular than Gamla. I think because of the location, it's more convenient to get to, plus really until after the 6-Day War, we didn't have control of Gamla, so it was harder to get to. But it's a really great story. I'm very excited to be sharing it with you. So I want to throw out a little challenge. If you look here at the map, so the circle in the middle, the gold is Yerushalayim, and the red that I put up north are different cities. So the Jews were all living in different cities up north. And the challenge question is, what approach did all the different northern cities choose to deal with the Romans? A few weeks ago, we spoke about Yodfat, which is a city in the Galil, and the story that happened there. And now we're talking about Gamla. So it could be a fun thing for yourself to enrich your history, to find out what did Sipori do, what did they do in Tveria, like Migdal. There's all cities, and not every city fought, some surrendered. So it's just a nice thing for your educational knowledge to know what everybody did. But back to Gamla. So the Romans are coming, and the Jews need to defend themselves. So what are they going to do? Okay, let's build a huge wall. And I want you guys to look at this wall and notice that it's very haphazard. It's not organized at all. You have stones that are just kind of thrown together. And if you think of other walls that you know, organized walls, let's say the Kotel is very organized. It's straight. Every stone is in its place. Nothing's just thrown on top. But here, we could see the speed at which they had to build the wall. They didn't have convenience and luxury of doing it carefully, and they just threw everything together. One of the really nice things about Gamla is when you visit, you see every few feet is another sign which is discussing the battle, and they're quoting from the work of Josephus. For example, this sign over here, the wall was built just prior to the rebellion against the Romans with the help of Flavius Josephus, the Jewish commander of the Galilee. So this is on the wall, and it's really nice because someone coming to Gamla that doesn't have the background, you can get the background just from the site. It's really, really organized. So now the Romans decide, okay, what's the way we're going to deal with these walls? Well, the way any enemy dealt with walled cities is in the Tanakh as well, is they do a siege. And now I must point out something to you. The Romans come and they do a siege of Gamla. It lasts a month, and then the city falls. However, there was actually a siege going on for 7 months prior to the arrival of the Romans. What do you mean? Who's attacking the Jews if it's not the Romans? So if you guys are familiar with Herod the Great, who was the one who built the Kotel, he was on the side of the Romans. Now, he's not a Roman general, but he's definitely on their side. He did a lot of really bad things to the Jewish people. After he dies, his sons take over, and then grandsons and great-grandchildren. So the last ruler of the Herod dynasty, his name is Agrippas II, and he's in charge of the Jews. We don't like him at all. He's doing really terrible things, but he's not like an official Roman general like Vespasian. So Agrippas II, for 7 months, him and his people, they're surrounding Gamla, and you would think like Vespasian could just wait it out a little, because if the city of Gamla, if he comes to a city that's already under siege, it means it's just a matter of time until it falls. Now, what's his big rush? Just let Gamla fall on its own time, and you go to Jerusalem. Go focus on the real thing. Focus on the Beit HaMikdash. Why are you wasting your time on all these little cities? And he, one by one, he took out all the cities of the north. Now, to understand why he's going straight for Gamla, there's another piece of history that's important to understand. So the Roman Empire, for hundreds of years, you guys see 68 to 476, hundreds of years, they have this enemy called the Parthian Empire. And the Romans were afraid, now, if we just leave these Jews, leave the Jews of Gamla, leave the Jews of Yodfat, and go straight for Jerusalem, Gamla, it's in the Golan, it's really on the border. So they said the Parthians could just decide, you know what, let's go and help those Jews. We'll help them against the Roman Empire. And because Vespasian didn't want the Parthians to go and help any Jews, they said one by one, we're going to deal with all these small rebellions. So that's just the greater picture why the Romans fighting so hard here, because they were afraid that the Parthians are going to join the Jews. That's like a nice, something important to keep in mind. So the Romans, they come and they find that the city is walled. Now, the way back then they would deal with walls of a city is they had something called a battering ram, or el miguach, where they would take it, and you could actually see here, this isn't the actual ram, but it's to help us understand that the place stood, and they even put the head of a ram on it. You take this piece of wood, and you could see it clearly in the picture on the right, and you bam it into the city again and again and again and again and again. And eventually the city falls, combined with the arrows you're shooting and the stones you're catapulting, and the people inside, they're weak, and it's not a good situation to be if you're on the inside. So that's what the Romans start doing. And we actually, if you go to Gamla, you could see the point in the wall, Nekudat HaPritza, where the Romans broke through. We also found thousands of arrowheads and ballista balls, which are like these catapult balls. You see the machine on the bottom that throws it in. So if we're finding all of these things and we see that it's shaped like a camel, we know we are in the right place. And this all dates back to the time of the second Beit HaMikdash, a battle that was going on. The Jews are in Yerushalayim are fighting, the Jews in Gamla are fighting as well. Now, here's a really cool part of the story. They break through, and the Roman soldiers, they're all surrounding, and everyone has a different section of the wall they need to be in charge of. Now, one legion, they managed to break through. So Vespasian and his soldiers, they quickly go in, let's do everything quick. And the Roman soldiers are actually standing on the roofs of the houses. And because of the weight of their armor, and this is what Josephus describes, he said they fell through. And there's actually a version that says they were standing on Sukkot. I don't know, like, I'm just going to throw that out there. In learning this, that's one of the things that I heard. But if we go with Josephus's version that it was houses, but not so steady because the Romans are really heavy, they're falling through and they start losing. And not only that, Vespasian is injured, And right away, as soon as the soldiers see that, they all crowd around him and they make like a turtle around him with their shields, so he's completely covered, and they take him out. So the first attempt to attack Gamla fails. They manage to break through the wall, but everything's just happening so quickly. They fall through the roofs, and Vespasian is injured. But have no fear, because he tells his people, we'll get them, whether it takes another day or month. Eventually, we will get these Jews. And now, when they go and attack again, they change their plan slightly. So, okay, I forgot why I put this picture. So if you guys look at Gamla again, and we're going to look at some of the remains which are going to help us understand the story, you might notice here something circular. This is the round tower. This is actually dates back to the times of the Chashmonaim. The Chashmonaim, Yehuda HaMaccabi, the Chashmonaim, they conquered a lot of Israel, and they built this tower, which was much higher back then, and now the people of Gamla later on are using it as well. Now, it wasn't the most sturdy tower, and one of the legions, now in an attempt to attack the city, manages to remove some stones from the tower. And after he removes stones, here's a better picture of it. It collapsed, and the huge noise of it, and all the Roman soldiers making noise, it terrified the Jews, and the Jews had a feeling that now this is really the end. And the Romans, they break through. And this time, who's leading them is Titus, or Titus, Vespasian's son. And he says that this time, he's not going to make the same mistake as his father. He's not going to rush in and do it quickly. He's going to go slowly. And they go in slowly. And they're not breaking into an army camp. When they break into Gamla, they see women and children. It's people living a regular life. And the Jews, also Josephus writes that at that moment, so the Jews are shooting arrows, the Romans are shooting arrows, and the wind is blowing in the wrong direction for the Jews, and it makes the arrows fly back on them. And it's, as it is, the Jews are fighting for, this is now the 7th month. And now they have to make a decision. Okay, the Romans are actually in the city. What do we do? And now here's where the other comes in, because some people decided, if we look back at Gamla, it's very high. They said, okay, we're going to jump. And Josephus writes about how a few thousand Jews just decided that they were going to jump off the cliff. In total, Josephus writes that 9,000 Jews were killed. Now, it's a very, very high number, and historians think that it was probably 9,000 from the Golan in total, not just from Gamla. But the Jews lost. It was an unsuccessful battle. They're fighting very hard, and they lose. Now, I want to share with you this last piece of something they discovered, which is, for me, what makes Gamla, I think, a story that's like equal to Masada. I'm not going to compete with Masada. They could all have their great stories, but something that I think is just so special about Gamla. And that's this. They found 11 coins in Gamla. And I want you to think, if you're ever in a fight with someone and you're fighting so long and so hard that you forget why you're fighting. Maybe you're fighting with your siblings and you just you don't even remember what the fight is about. Or with your friends, I mean, hopefully you never fight, but I think some of us can relate to that sometimes you fight and you don't even remember why you're fighting. And one of the things historians debate is, were the Jews of Gamla even connected to the Jews of Yerushalayim? Was this one big rebellion where they're fighting because of the Beit HaMikdash, or are they fighting for their own lives? The Jews in Jerusalem are fighting for themselves and everyone's doing their own thing. For you guys to get to Jerusalem today would take you quicker than the Jews of Gamla. The Jews of Gamla would take you 3 days. You guys, hopefully Corona will pass and you come to Israel. We'll get here in 12 hours. And the question is, are the Jews even connected? And then they find these 11 coins, and they find inscribed on the coins, it says, L'Geulat Yerushalayim HaKdosha, for the redemption of the Holy Jerusalem. And these coins gave them the answer. And the answer was that even though the Jews are all the way up north, all the way in the Golan, and it's a day's journey to get to Yerushalayim, they never lost sight of the reason why they were fighting. They didn't forget that it was all about, at the end of the day, it was about Yerushalayim HaKdosha, it was about the Beit HaMikdash, it was about the fight for freedom there. And the fact that they could stay connected, being so far away, and still keep Yerushalayim in their hearts, I think it's so beautiful, and it makes me ask myself, how am I connected to Yerushalayim? Is Yerushalayim in my heart? am I doing everything that I can to make sure Yerushalayim is a city of peace and a city of justice? Because the Jews in Gamla, they didn't forget. Their battle was to strengthen and enhance and continue the fight of the Jews in Yerushalayim. And I think it's really, really beautiful how they remember that. And the fact that you guys chose on Monday morning to come and learn about the Jews of Gamla, it shows that you too are a part of this and see value in preserving their memory. But not only that you recognize the core of it, which is Yerushalayim, I want to show you now how the country of Israel remembers the Jews of Gamla. Every single year on Yom HaZikaron, Memorial Day for Israeli soldiers, so all across the country, there's ceremonies. And one year, so I live in Yerushalayim, and usually in Yerushalayim, so I go to Har Herzl or some other place. But 2 years ago, I was in Gamla, I was in the Golan, and I said, where am I gonna go for Yom HaZikaron? And then I have a friend that lives in the Golan. He said, why don't you go to Gamla? So I was actually there. I wish I had a picture of me being there, but on YouTube, if you type in Adele Tawil, after I went, I gave for the SCA like a 1-minute video speaking about my experience there, so you could go watch that, but I'm going to tell it over again now here. So I was there with a friend, and they have the ceremony. Now, in Yom HaZikaron, every city does it differently. The way they do it in the Golan is that they announce, here you see soldiers and the flag is at half-mast. They announce all of the people that year that were, unfortunately, if they were like killed in a terror attack or killed in war, they mention them. Now, I was familiar with the history of Gamla before I arrived there. And as I'm listening to the names being read of the current names and the current soldiers, I'm thinking, connecting it a few thousand years, and I go, wow, how incredible that the state of Israel recognizes that the fight that we're fighting today is a direct continuation of the fight of the Jews of Gamla. Just because it happened a few thousand years ago, they don't say, oh, that was back then, times of the temple, Gamla, and this is today. They say, no, we are a direct continuation in the chain. And the fight of Gamla is still going on today, and we're directly continuing it. And it made me appreciate so much the knowledge I had of history, because I said, thank God I came there and I was educated about Gamla and I knew about it. But let's say there's someone that came to that same ceremony and they didn't know about the history of Gamla, and they didn't know about the fight that the Jews of Gamla fought bravely for everything against the Romans for their freedom. They would say, okay, we're in this place, good view, outdoors, nice place for a ceremony. And that extra piece of, wow, connecting back to the history, that gets lost. So that's why I really, really encourage you as much as you can to always learn about your history and always learn more and more and more about Eretz Yisrael. And I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it in person. Yesterday, I gave my first real tour since March. In light of the corona, we were all in masks. It was amazing. It was like, I enjoy so much giving it on Zoom. And then when I did it in person, I'm like, wow. So I really encourage you to come, and then we could go visit these places in person and you'll already know about it. So it'll be that much richer. So the more you learn about your history and the more you learn about places in Eretz Yisrael, it just makes your identity richer and your life richer. And here I circled in yellow. You guys see the camel's hump of Gamla. Okay. Other points of interest, if you go to Gamla, you will see they have a synagogue, and their synagogue dates back to the time of the second Beit HaMikdash. Now, that's very, very strange, because if you have a Beit HaMikdash, why would you have a synagogue? You go to the Beit HaMikdash, you give korbanot. That's a discussion in itself, but it's an interesting thing, which leads us to the question, well, what's the function of a synagogue if they have from the times of the second Beit HaMikdash? And according to some historians, this might be the oldest one we have in Israel. Masada also has one, which also dates back to the same time. Other things you could see, they have a mikveh. Purity was really, really important at that time. The round tower that we said they managed to break through the city, you could go and stand there. And it's also a really, really, really great place to hike. You see the Kinneret. It's beautiful, especially if you go in the winter, everything is green. Here's a picture when I was there with my tour guiding course. So you guys noticed that it's a little bit brown. we didn't go in the summer, but it was still really fun. And you could spot tour guides from a mile away. If you ever see a group of people and they all have notebooks out and they're wearing those hats, they're tour guides. So that's when I was learning about Gamla. Not the easiest descent for kids, but if they're hikers, then you totally could bring them. So I want to summarize now. Now we're not done because I still want to speak a little bit about the birds and the waterfall, but I felt like this is an appropriate time to summarize what we saw so far. So I'm going to summarize a little. We started out with a map of the Golan Heights and we saw where Gamla is located. Then we spoke about the Great Rebellion, how the Jews are fighting against the Romans before the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, during and after. We looked at Gamla and we see a picture here and we see the natural protection it has on 3 sides and how steep it is. We discussed the thousands of Romans that say, hey, this is something we need to take seriously, especially because, we don't want the Parthians to join on, and they're fighting against the Jews and the Jews are fighting back. They're building their wall, and the Romans see this and they continue this 7-month siege, which was already started, and they make an even fiercer one. They take a battering ram, they ram the walls, the arrows, bulls, everything getting thrown in. They broke through the walls. However, the initial time they were defeated, we said they fell through the roofs. They were too heavy. Vespasian is injured. But then they try again. They break through the round tower, and the noise really terrifies the Jews, and they go in slowly, and some Jews decide that they jump. Some Jews fight, and the Romans are victorious at Gamla. They could check Gamla off the list or exit off, whichever they want, and go on to the next city. And then we but we also spoke about the coins that they found, 11 coins, Legulat Yerushalayim Ketosha, which shows that the Jews of Gamla never once did they forget that the larger picture. It's very easy to get lost in the fight and not realize what you're fighting for. However, they did not lose sight of it. And we said we don't lose sight of the Jews of Gamla in the greater sense of Jewish history, because the fact that the state of Israel has a memorial ceremony every year in this historic place shows that we see ourselves today as a continuation. And it's just such a beautiful thing. We also said there's a few other, if you go to Gamla today, you can go and visit the, wait, hold on, I need to move this window. I don't know how to move it. 1 second, sorry, technical issue. Okay. If you go to Gamla today, you can also visit a synagogue, which is its own story, mikveh, and it's also a really, really, really great place to hike. Okay. Now, the question I want to leave you off with from this 3/4 part of the class is, where am I connected to Yerushalayim? We spoke about the Jews of Gamla's connection, but now in light of Tisha B'Av, which focuses on the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, I want to ask myself, and I encourage you to ask yourself as well, where is your connection to Yerushalayim? And once you take time and think about that and come up with where you're connected to Yerushalayim, I want to then ask another question. Can I enhance that connection with however I'm connected in my tefillot or in whatever I do, visiting? Can I make the connection even further? And I think, I live here, but I definitely could still enhance the connection. I could learn more about it. And, there's tons of ways how to go about it, but I think that this is an appropriate question to keep in mind. Now, bonus, you guys are so lucky that you chose to join me this morning, because not only are you leaving more educated and more prepared for Tisha B'Av, now that you know about this significant story which took place as part of the Great Rebellion up north in Gamla, I'm also going to show you 2 other amazing things you will see if you go to Gamla. Ignore my bell, it's my neighbors. One, if you guys see this lookout, you notice that there's people that have really, really professional cameras, and there's binoculars. What are they all looking at? So I want to, one, it's gorgeous view, but they're actually not looking at the view. I want to direct your attention upwards. If you look at what's hanging from the ceiling, we see something called a griffon vulture, Nishid Mikrai. Now, when Hashem took the, sorry about my bell, when Hashem took the Jewish people out of Egypt, he told them, Atem re'item asher asidi limitzrayim, va'asa etchem al kanfen esharim, va'avi etchem. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm just way too distracted by my bell. 1 minute.
ביום שישי אולי נלך לדעת.
אני אבוא לקראת. Sorry about that. Okay. So, okay, back to this. So Hashem tells the Jewish people that I took you out of Mitzrayim, al kanfei nesharim, on the wings of nesharim, and I brought you to me. Now, usually in history, people translate that as neshed is an eagle. I think because Rashi translates it as an eagle. And I remember I learned multiple times that it's an incorrect translation. Even though in modern Hebrew today, when they say neshed, they also mean eagle. Based on what the Torah means, neshed is a griffon vulture. So that's the term. And if you guys look at the neshed, you see that it has a huge wingspan, about 7 feet, and it weighs about 13 pounds, which is very heavy for a bird. A bird needs to be light if it's flying so high in the sky. So God says, when I took you out of Egypt, it was like you on the wings of this neshed. Now, why am I bringing up a neshed right now at Gamla? Because if you go to Gamla, you might be lucky enough to spot one. There are about 20 neshedim total in the state of Israel, which is really, really small. 100 years ago, there were hundreds, and now there's only about 20. And their area of concentration is in Ramat HaGolan in Gamla, because the nesharim, they need high cliffs to make their nests, and it needs to be places that are away from people. If there's going to be rocks that are rolling down, or if there's going to be telephone wires or cars, it's going to disrupt them. So the cliffs of Gamla are a really, really great place, which is why you would find them there, and you see here people looking out trying to spot them, hoping that they'll spot them. There's really no guarantee. It reminds me of how I went to Costa Rica once, and in the brochures they say walk through the jungles and see the monkeys and see this, but they don't tell you that most of the animals are nocturnal, and the chances that you'll see them are going to be very slight. And like, you go walking, you think you're going to see monkeys hanging from the trees, and you don't, especially if you're talking about a bird. I mean, you have to get lucky to see them, but it is possible. And here is a picture of me. I was so excited to be there because I love Torah, and I said, cool, neshed, let me copy the neshed. And here are 2 other pictures of it. So you could see how beautiful it is flying, and then with its wings covering itself. Now I'm going to share with you 3 cool facts. There are many, many cool facts, but if you want to know more, then you need to go to Gamla and learn about them. But I'm just going to share a few with you. One is that both parents have equal responsibility towards the baby. It's hard to tell who's who. So when I read that, I'm like, oh, that's probably interesting. You know, if parents would raise their kids that way, that the mom and dad would share equal responsibility. So that's how the neshadim raise their young. They are known as nature's janitor because it feeds on carcasses. Now, they don't swoop down on live prey, only if the body is dead already. And they require high protected areas like Gamla to roost a nest. Now, I already told you that, so I want to give you another fact because I want it to be 3 new facts. Another fact that I'm going to give you is that when the vultures, the nesharim, they go and they eat their prey, so usually wolves get to it first. And the wolves have a very important role in nature because they're breaking the bones apart. And now when the nesharim come, it's softer. So now the adult nesharim, they take these little pieces of bone that are a little bit processed already, and then they bring it and they give it to their babies because it helps them like build up their muscles. And they actually found a problem is that they started raising more sheep in Ramat HaGolan, and then the wolves would go and attack them, and like the farmers don't want that to happen. So then they would like use poison. And now the wolves have a very developed sense of smell. Now, if the farmers would like throw a carcass out to the wolves. Now the wolf is able to smell that it's poison and it won't go next to it. But the neshed, even though they have great smell, they're not able to detect the poison. So what happens is that they then go and they start eating from this poisoned carcass, and then they die because they can't fight off the poison. And because the wolves aren't getting to it first, they still need to find these like small pieces of bone to give to their babies. So they end up taking little pieces of glass and other things. And they know this because when tons of nesharim were dying and they opened up the stomachs of babies, they found pieces of glass. And it's not supposed to have, you're not supposed to eat glass, but the nesharim couldn't tell the difference and they needed this for their babies. So that's one of the problems. Nesharim are endangered, and we hope that God will bless them and they will prosper. And also, obviously, as human beings, we have our part. What are some things that we do that are dangerous to their nesting. So that's something we can ask ourselves. So that is something you might get lucky to see if you go to Gamla. Okay. Another thing which is amazing to see is a very fun trivia question. If someone asks you, where is Israel's highest waterfall? The answer is Gamla at 51 meters high, which is 167 feet. It is Israel's highest waterfall, and it flows all year long and is really, really beautiful to see. Now, this fourth slide of this slideshow, I wrote Israel's Niagara Falls. Now, originally when I thought of that title, I was planning on saying, well, it's no Niagara Falls. And then I said, you know what? I wonder how high Niagara Falls is, because I'm ready to say the difference. And it really surprised me to see, but Niagara Falls is actually also 51 meters or 57 meters, depending on what angle you're looking at. So it definitely could compete with Niagara Falls because it's the same amount, it's the same height, although it's a lot narrower. But it's in Israel, so it's special. It has that Israel specialty connected to it. So that's also something you could see if you come to Israel. You can visit Gamla's waterfall. It's all nearby. You could spend an hour, 2 hours at Gamla. You could spend all day. It's tons of things to do and see, and it's also a meaningful place. It's meaningful and it's fun. It's really a great place. And so my first task to you was to think about where Yerushalayim is in your life and your connection to it. And my next task is to schedule your next visit to Gamla. If you visit Gamla, you will be able to experience the battle story, hear it, see it on site, which is always very meaningful. You might get lucky to see a beautiful neshed flying, and you could learn more facts about the neshed and how wonderful they are. And you see the top sign, like all the different things that you could do. You could see the waterfall, you could go on a hike. Thank you so much for joining. I love sharing information with you about Eretz Yisrael, especially in light of Tisha B'Av coming, and I hope that this helps you go into the day with a little bit more to think about, more meaning, and I wish you an amazing rest of the day.
Thank you. That was very nice.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Very well.
You talking about? What battle happened over there?
So it was a battle during the time of the second Beit HaMikdash. There were battles happening all throughout Israel. So that was a battle that took place there.
Thank you.
Bye, Ralph. Thank you.
That was great. Thanks.
Thanks for joining.